Hi everyone, my name is Jenna Crampton. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Claude Monet. He is a very famous Impressionist artist. I'm sure that many of you have either heard of Claude Monet or you've seen some of his paintings. His water lily paintings are pretty iconic. Claude Monet is one of the most famous French artists in art history. He was also one of the leading figures of the Impressionist movement that transformed French art and painting. He was born on November 14th, 1840 in Paris, France. He was a third-generation Parisian, and his father was a businessman and his mother was a trained singer. He passed away on December 5th, 1926 at the age of 86 in Giverny, France. Monet was best known for his Impressionism paintings that captured light, shadows, colors of naturalistic settings, as well as day-to-day and leisurely life in France. He would oftentimes recreate images or like a series of images that depicted different times of the day or different seasons and different lighting situations. He also created over 250 paintings of the water lilies alone. Each painting varied in colors and depicted the light and reflections in the water. Monet developed a love for art and drawing early on in life. He produced most of his artwork in France. His early works included charcoal caricature drawings. He would sell them in a local art shop in Le Havre for 10 to 20 francs each. It was also in Le Havre on the beaches of Normandy when Monet met Eugene Boudin. Boudin taught Monet how to use oil paints and outdoor painting techniques, also known as painting in plein air. Boudin is also credited with teaching Monet how to paint light and colors as he saw them. Monet moved back to Paris and created many paintings there. He moved and traveled throughout many different towns and villages across France and produced art wherever he was. He also spent time in Algeria, Italy, and the Netherlands and produced art there as well. Later in his life, Monet purchased a home in Giverny, France. His home in Giverny was large enough for him to have his own art studio. The home in Giverny also featured a large, colorful garden as well as a pond filled with water lilies and a Japanese bridge. Most of Monet's later work included imagery from his home in Giverny. His water lily pond, Japanese bridge, and his colorful flower garden are the subjects of many of his paintings. Monet actually had the pond diverted from part of a river in the area, and he had all of his water lilies imported from Egypt. Monet also had a floating art studio that he created out of a boat that he would also float around and paint. Here are some images of Monet's home in Giverny, France. You can see the gardens here. You can also see the Japanese bridge with water lilies. It's actually a popular tourist destination. You can actually visit this home in France. Monet and the painters who later would become known as Impressionists tried to recreate images or impressions from everyday life, and they painted what they saw in front of them. Their style was known for bright colors and bold brushstrokes. Impressionism painting was not the typical style for painting in the late 1800s, and the Salon rejected most of these artists' work. Monet and a group of artists, including painters and sculptors, created their own exhibition to show their work and were known as the Anonymous Society of Painters, Sculptors, and Artists. It was at one of these exhibitions where one art critic criticized Monet's painting, Impression Sunrise, and called it unfinished and merely an impression. The term Impressionism stuck, and the artists called themselves Impressionists. The Anonymous Society of Artists, Painters, and Sculptors continued to hold many exhibitions, and by the Society's last exhibition in 1886, Impressionism art and paintings were widely popular and very respected. Monet is one of the most famous Impressionist artists that helped change the history of art. This image here is titled Bridge Over a Pond of Water Lilies. It was painted in 1899. This image here features the Japanese bridge and water lily pond at Monet's home in Giverny. This is also part of a series of paintings that Monet would recreate in different seasons and different lighting. As you can see here, the different styles and colors of each bridge and pond. At the age of 82, Monet also discovered that he had cataracts in his eyes. The deterioration of his eyesight was devastating to Monet. In 1923, he was operated on 3 times to try and correct his right eye. The bright reds and yellows of Water Lily's Japanese bridge, the image to the right, is evident of the impaired eyesight of him. After the deterioration of his eyesight, Monet claimed that he could also see ultraviolet colors, which may be why some of his paintings have a color palette that feature more reds and orange. This here is one of the water lily paintings that Monet would paint. There are over 250 paintings of the water lilies. Here are some additional images of the water lily paintings. In the water lily paintings, Monet focuses on the surface of the water and bringing the water lily scene to life with color and reflection. The sky and clouds are oftentimes reflected in the water, and the blues of the sky and the blue of the water seem to meld together in some of his paintings. The Poplar series paintings was made by Claude Monet in the summer and fall of 1891. This was also a series of images. The trees were in a marsh along the banks of the river, a few miles upstream from Monet's home and studio in Giverny. To reach the trees, Monet would sail his floating painting studio up the nearby waterway to where it joined the river. The trees there were along the riverside in a single file. The trees actually belonged to a commune, and they were put up for auction before Monet had completed all of his paintings. And Monet actually purchased the trees so he could finish his paintings, and when he finished painting his series, he sold the trees back to a lumber merchant. Here are some additional images of the poplars. As you can see, different colors and different seasons and lighting. Haystacks is another series by Monet. There are about 25 haystack paintings. The stacks of hay in the field are painted in different lighting, seasons, and weather conditions. Monet painted the haystacks from the summer of 1890 and continued painting these into the spring of 1891. This painting here is of Camille Monet, Monet's wife. Camille was a model and oftentimes a subject of a number of paintings by Monet. This painting is titled Camille Monet on her deathbed. Monet painted this image after Camille passed away in 1879. By the time of Monet's death, he had painted over 2,500 different art pieces. That included paintings, charcoal drawings, and pastels. There may also have been more art pieces created. However, Monet would oftentimes destroy his artworks if they weren't perfect or if they weren't painted how he had intended them to look. Nonetheless, Monet's impact on modern art is tremendous. Monet is among the most influential artists in art history, and his unique color palette, vision, and confirmation would make a lasting impact on future fine art. Many artists have been influenced by Monet, whose techniques inspired Impressionists and Post-Impressionists such as Vincent van Gogh. And this here is my works cited page. Thank you so much, guys, for listening to my presentation about Claude Monet.